Welcome to the A&R Worldwide podcast presented by Nuplak with your boy Taylor Jones here as your host. This is the Executives in Discussion podcast where we talk to experienced executives and creatives. We dive into their journeys, ups and downs, the state of the business, where they see it going, and of course gathering some priceless advice and key takeaways. If you're in the music industry or you're looking to get your start in the music biz and want to hear from the very best, this podcast is for you. On today's episode, we're joined by Adam Taylor, President and CEO of leading provider of music for visual media, APM Music. For over 2 decades, Adam has been helping companies, organizations, and individuals manage and extract value from their copyrights and trademarks. He has a really interesting background at Caswell Massey, the oldest chemists and perfumers in the US, where he served a 10-year post, and at Taylor Fox Enterprises, where as president he partnered with doctors, scientists, and inventors to direct, market, and deliver their unique, patent-protected inventions to consumers. He's a complete expert on all things copyright and has brought that into the music business for visual media. Let's dive in. Adam Taylor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you for spending the time with us. You just had a panel. You were here at MUSEXPO in Burbank in 2024. This has been running for quite some time now. How many times have you been to MUSEXPO?
You know, I've only been like 3 or 4 times. But how long has it been going on for?
I think almost 25 years.
Wow.
It's been quite a while.
I guess I'm just too busy.
Yeah, well, that's a good problem to have.
But I love Sad. He's done an amazing job. And, I've gotten to know him and the organization. And
yes.
I think we sponsor some of it. And
yeah,
we just love being involved.
Yeah,
so
it's great to have you here. And so you just had a panel, yes. I guess. What were you discussing on the panel?
Really sync. APM Music is in the world of sync. It's a music library.
Yeah.
We license sync rights into TV shows and movies and things like that. And so really mostly about sync. There was a bit of discussion about the impact of the last 4 years of COVID and the various strikes. And we talked a bit about TikTok and Universal pulling out of TikTok and the implications of that.
Yeah, touchy subject at the moment.
It is, but very, very important.
Yes.
And we really need to protect the value of music. So.
Yeah. Well, and talking of the value of music, I believe APM has a catalog of over a million songs. Is that correct?
It's about 1.4 million recordings.
Wow.
That includes a lot of different versions of different tracks. So I would say there's probably about 350,000 original compositions that have been written since the earliest days of the 20th century.
Wow. So you guys are really known as the kings of soundtrack music licensing and providing music for visual.
Well, in our own minds, anyway.
In your own minds, right? Well, it's good. It's good. Self-belief is not just the case here when you've had this kind of a track record.
Well, thank you.
So, from your words to our listeners, it would be great for you to describe exactly how you describe APM and some of the key verticals that you operate in, and what an average day looks like for you.
Well, generally, I try to talk a little bit about the history of library music. And library business really started in the late 1940s when people were using music for productions. They realized they could reuse music. They realized they could license it out to others, or they could really create music specifically for a library to be able to license out to various people doing productions, radio productions early, and movies, and then TV and everything else now. And in those days, there were these fantastic composers and conductors and players, and mostly in England and Germany and a couple of other places. So they started recording these bodies of work that just grew over time. And so APM was founded in 1983, and we were a joint venture between EMI and ATV, which soon sold its interest to Zamba. So for a long time, we were a combination of EMI and Zamba Music, and then now we're a joint venture between Sony and Universal.
Yeah.
And we handle sync licensing in the United States and Canada, and we are probably the largest here in terms of repertoire and volume. And
well, congratulations. How important is music in the art of storytelling for visual? And it would seem like an obvious question, of course, but I'd love to hear from you really how you feel it adds value in the broader sense.
So years ago, I was at a black tie event. We had a sponsorship we used to fund at the Young Musicians Foundation, which was the orchestra group that was founded by John Williams about, 60 years ago or something like that, and to support young musicians. And I was giving the award, and then after me, George Lucas was on, and it was great to be on the same stage for about 15 seconds as George Lucas, But he said he wanted to talk exactly about what you were asking and what's the value of music to film. He said, I'm going to play you a clip of Star Wars. And so he did, and there was no music in it. And everybody was pretty shocked.
Wow.
And they were shocked to hear it that way. They were also shocked at how empty it sounded and how devoid of emotion it sounded. Mm-hmm. And then he played the same clip with music, and it was like it came alive. So I think that encapsulates that music helps to carry the emotion of
Fantastic
a film.
answer, by the way. And
thank you.
And I was able to visualize that in my head.
I think about that often, that moment, and I think also that music signals to somebody watching what to feel. Mm-hmm. You could take something in a comedic way or not. I mean, there are often times when I'll hear music in something on a show or a movie where the action hasn't actually even turned yet, but from the music you know which way it's going.
Yeah.
So it's just an inherent and essential part of the storytelling.
Do you have a memory of when you first started experimenting with music and visual and getting into the sync world? What brought you to be doing this for a living?
I've always been in the business of running intellectual property companies, and from a family business I had when I left college, which was in the cosmetics industry, to producing TV shows and independent documentaries and other things.
And when did you? What age were you when you started working in entertainment, or at least experimenting with film and music and production?
In my late 30s, I guess.
Late 30s.
And in the 90s, and the power of music became obvious at that time. And but there's something about looking at intellectual property with APM. I've been running it for 24 years. Almost in June will be, I think 23 years. And so it's been a long, long time. And I didn't really know.
Almost as old as MUSEXPO.
Yes, there you go. So I didn't know much about this world, actually. I thought about intellectual property, and I thought about TV shows and things like that, but not necessarily about this connection around music and what the power of music was. But as soon as I had this opportunity to come run APM, and I started listening to the music and started to look at how it's used in productions for storytelling, I understood. And it's really music for storytelling. Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna pause and wait for them to to shut up, and then we'll keep going. Okay, let's cut all this out. Thank you.
It may be a kitchen kind of thing. You may want to
think
tell
so.
them. Yeah. Are you able? Does the mic pick that up?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Sorry.
much. That was really good. And how do you feel like music for picture has evolved over the years sonically? Because, quintessentially, this music for film was orchestral. It's the quintessential score that we all know and have come to love. Movies like Star Wars and Indiana Jones and old school action films really remind you of those big orchestral moments that lead up to the action scene or to how has music evolved as times have evolved and technology has evolved. We're seeing things like really cool dynamic soundtracks in shows like Stranger Things, for example, that really kind of are breaking the mold and are using electronic synth styles. How do you feel music has been evolving creatively over the years? And have you seen that in the repertoire that you're licensing and using and syncing?
Sure. So, firstly, I think it's important to clarify that I do run the business, run the company, but I'm not really a music person myself in a way. I mean, I play guitar and a little bit of piano, but really, I tell people
playing two instruments is more of a music person than most.
Yeah, but I tell people I'm only good enough to put in my competitors' libraries.
Sure.
I'm not good enough, really, seriously. And so I have a layman's knowledge of music, I think. I'm not a music expert. We have music experts in the company. Nonetheless, it is very clear how music has evolved. And, when you go back and listen to the soundtracks of previous eras, they're of a kind. And there's incredible music that was written over all those years. And those film composers inspired so many people today, and they continue to do so. But the use of music for storytelling has really dramatically changed. And so the kinds of scores that are written, the elements that are going into it, the use of vocals, of songs, is something that really was not done. Yeah, obviously samples going into music, and we can talk about sampling in a little bit. But, we look at I think music has so many different types of things, and I think what's been most impressive about music over the last 20 years or so, or 25, is how music of different styles are combined to do new things. And so whether it's world music or rock or archival things that are meshed together in mashups or remixes or hip hop obviously has played a very, very large role in that. And we were talking last night at a dinner about Gangsta's Paradise. And
what a song.
Which is an incredible song, by Coolio, and was obviously from Stevie Wonder, in his song. And those things would not have been a theme of a movie in earlier days.
Yeah.
And so
when did we see that start to change? I guess when Ice Ice Baby, started to hit the screens too.
I think I don't know that there's one particular moment, but I think it evolved over time and it continues to. And I'm just constantly surprised at how we see people, using music today in production. So I think it's great. One of my favorite shows of the last 10 years or so is Justified, and I'm just spacing on the name of the song that is in there, but it's just a fantastic song that melds a variety of different styles of music into one, and is the theme of the song, and really helps to paint a picture of the character of that show and where it was shot in Appalachia. So.
Wow.
Or where it took place. I think it was shot in Valencia. But
Well, now I'm curious to listen, and I think I will, since you shared your interests so generously. So, you referenced yourself as the business mind rather than the creative. Well, not that you aren't the creative mind, but that you aren't a musical man per se. More of a layman's music man. Yeah. So let's talk about the business then, and the business structure. How does it all work as far as licensing at APM? Are you guys doing direct deals with composers and producers and publishing them before you license music, or are you working with publishers to then license out and sync things? Is it single song based when you work on a project? Are you engaging a publisher or a creative team to oversee an entire project? Are you working with a particular music supervisor? What does that look like? Can you explain how the process works?
Sure. So there are two separate parts to this. There's the supply chain and then the distribution chain. So we've got the supply of music into us. And let's talk about that first. APM is a bit of an interesting and unique animal in that both EMI and Zamba at the time, now Universal, and EMI, now Sony, had libraries over in the UK that they were representing, libraries that went back to the 40s and 50s, really fantastic music. And they were continuing to produce music, and they decided to set up their own company here as a distributor because there was an agent who they wanted to change from, and they decided to set up APM in 1983. So those libraries came into here, and then over the years, even before I was here, we started to take on a lot of other libraries.
So it began with execution of libraries.
The libraries were being produced over there. APM was not producing its own music.
Yeah.
We started with those libraries, but then we decided we needed more music and different kinds of music. So the company went out and has gone out during my tenure to find other libraries who have a different point of view and different sets of music. And most of those libraries are independently owned. And we also represent the music of the NFL, Major League Baseball, Discovery Network, ITV, Sky, and a bunch of others. And all of that has come together to be this enormous and really a kind of important creative collection. So generally speaking, we work with indie artists and some indie record labels here in the U.S. to bring content in, indie artist content. But the rest of the library stuff comes from the libraries we represent. And I think it's part of the reason for APM's great success, because we're able to curate to choose the best libraries.
Yeah. And are your libraries coming from global territories?
Yes, all over the world.
So you're working with J-pop libraries and K-pop libraries and Afrobeats libraries, and you have all of this content that you can use at any appropriate time.
We have music from probably every country of the world that produces music, and which is probably every place other than maybe Antarctica or something.
Yeah.
But we have an African library. I think we have 3 Japanese libraries. We have 3 Chinese libraries, and there's a lot of J-pop, C-pop, K-pop, and we have a lot of world music, a lot from Asia.
How do you find license fees, sync fees for master usage differs from territory to territory? It's been big in the US for big feature films, but I work heavily in the space of K-pop, and we are a music publisher in K-pop, and we place records all the time, and a lot of major artists, the likes of BTS and NCT and ITZY and Twice and thereof, and the sync fees for placements over here for K-pop music that is owned and controlled over there seem to be much less when we receive them than masters that are actually homegrown in the US or controlled by a major label based in the US. Do you see a disparity there at all?
In truth, I don't really know, because we only license in the United States and Canada. That's what APM is set up for. So I don't know what the international fees are.
Yeah.
But the way library music is set up, and part of the value proposition, is that every track is the same price. So whether it's a K-pop track or a national anthem from some small country, or our biggest track, the Monday Night Football theme that we own, they're all the same price.
Good to know.
So it's for us, it depends. The pricing varies based on how somebody wants to use it. If it's a theme, it's one thing. If it's in a local radio spot,
it's different.
Somewhere, it's different.
Yeah, and is the library that you refer to, is that a library of commercially released music, or are you also working with libraries of demos and unreleased songs that you're able to place?
Virtually all of the music that we have was specifically written to be in a library, not to be commercially released. It's specifically music for storytelling. So that's true for virtually all of the libraries. The only libraries where that may not be true is we've acquired rights to some older archival material. We have a lot of classical music that was required. The rights were required from record companies. But even the music from Discovery and the NFL, things are all written for the moving image.
Sure.
And so it's not commercially released music. Now, that most of our music is actually up on Spotify and Apple Music and places like that, and other DSPs. But the primary revenue stream and the primary purpose of the music is for audiovisual storytelling.
Understood.
And podcasts. We do a lot of we do This American Life and a whole bunch of other podcasts. So any kind of production or audio visual production.
Good to know. And what is the genre of music that is seeing the most success as far as library derived music?
Well, a little hard to say in that we have every genre known to humankind. However, in these days...
That's why I asked. Because I figured you have music from all over the world, so many different genres, so many genres of film and visual, and so many aesthetics and styles and scenes to prepare for and moments to tell, stories to tell, that is there a straight down the line, pop of this world that sees the most success? If I were a composer looking to get into composing music for storytelling, what should I be focusing on? What gives me the best chance of having success?
So I would kind of divide it into two categories. One of them is just background underscore music, or even score. That's one whole category.
Yeah.
And then there's everything else. And they do influence each other. So I would say that our biggest categories are going to be hip hop, rock, pop, and hybrids between
Got
those.
it.
Yeah.
And is there a tag or a theme that is embedded within those genres that also sees a lot of success? I hip hop, energetic hip hop, because I would imagine that as far as maintaining your sanity when looking for compositions, when your team is looking for compositions, that you must have an entire system in place for tagging and and banking this music so that it's easy to find, easy to access,
Yes.
And easy to place and pitch. So do you have any insight on what kind of tags are the most used? Is it happy music? Is it sad music? Is it romantic?
Right. Well, firstly, it's important to say that we have about 35 or 40 attributes that we use to describe music, and we have about 3,000 different terms in our taxonomy. And we ask people, either we do the tagging or we have the libraries do the tagging, to go through each of those 30 some odd attributes and make sure that they're properly tagging so that a track is properly described. There are aspects of mood and energy and activity besides genre. Somebody types in hip hop or whatever. A lot of times people want tracks with vocals, even though they often will use the version without the vocals.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of thing it is, an underscore isn't going to have vocals mostly. But if you're talking about a song, we like to have the vocals and the underscore because people like to either
For
use
a tiny
the underscore.
piece of the vocals and then they go
they'll
away for
fade
the
in,
rest.
they'll fade out, whatever, because you have to have dialogue in the production. So various energy words. Happy is important. Also, they want songs that vary in the emotion of it, so it's not one constant kind of thing. People also like things that are building, so building up the tension or the energy or whatever. So building is an important word. But you can't just write in one style. You have to in one form. It's not a formula. And there's so many different things. If you went to our different libraries or composers and said, I need music, I need this, whatever that brief is, you're going to get, every composer's submission is going to be different.
It's going to be different.
Yeah. And
do you ever take a song that's in the library that a composer has, that you've acquired or that you've have been provided to by a composer, and it's perfect for a particular moment of a story? Do you ever then go back retroactively and rework that music so that it can be then, I guess, tailored to brief?
Yes. So if a client wants us to make a change to it, we'll make a change to it. So we'll go in and we'll edit something, we'll take something out, we'll put something in, we'll layer it. Sometimes they want the vocals out. We now are using AI software to extract vocals. Yeah. And it works very, very well. And we just actually ran this AI software on a whole bunch of like 20,000 tracks that had vocals. We extracted the vocals, separated it. We have a vocal stem and an instrumental stem. Boy, they're fantastic. It's amazing how good a job it is.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. And I'm really glad that you brought that up. Let's talk about AI for just a minute too. What is your view on AI modules that actually can make the music from start to finish? Because there are modules being built at the moment.
Sure, of course.
That can make library music. And a friend of mine recently just launched, and I won't say his name because it's brand new, but he's a big DJ, has worked with a lot of people, has just released an AI tool that you can, that literally makes a pop record for you, start to finish. You can literally, type in the BPM, the key, the style, the mood, the reference, the type of vocals you'd want to hear, the type of lyrics, and you program all this and you say, basically render, and it spits out a great record that you can then tweak and adjust, and you're able to commercially release that song and own the rights to it. What does the future look like for library, audiovisual music when AI is advancing at such a fast pace?
I think, I'm not a Luddite, and I know that AI is going to continue to grow and change and become better and better. I do believe that people like to work with humans, And I think that, we've talked to the studios and the networks and all the different people we work with, and they're not interested in AI generative music. I'm not a fan, and we won't put any in our library. I did do one test with one album that we have. It's not fully AI, but because the composer did some modifications at the end. But we're not doing that anymore. I would rather really. I don't think it's personally good for the culture.
So you're supporting the craft of real musicians at the moment by
real musicians and real composers and songwriters. And I would rather use AI for things that humans can't do. And so stem extraction,
automation, enhancing efficiency rather than taking over the job.
Exactly. So that's what we're focusing on. We're using it for search and for auto tagging and for stem extraction and for some track modification of things that other people, a human might not be able to
mastering,
do.
enhancing,
Right.
Exactly.
So we're focusing on that. We have a plethora of composers who we work with, and we get new ones coming every day, and we would like to be able to support that work. So that's more important to me.
That's good. That's really good to
10,
hear.
20, 50, who knows, years from now, next generation will have a different view.
Or there won't be a next generation.
Well,
the next generation of computers.
I mean, you could look at the, going back in time, the number of people who were able to play classical instruments, and compared to today, it's a handful. It's a much smaller
even
fraction.
Some of the biggest producers and songwriters in the world can't play an instrument at the moment. It's all MIDI based, or they download a loop on Splice and and mess with it and get something great.
And that actually brings up a good point. Is that people have been using software, or AI is just software. So AI software or machine learning, whatever it is, for a long time. You got Ableton Live and you got other things. So these are things that assist composers. So hopefully, and it is my hope, that the best work will be done by composers and songwriters who use all the tools available to them, but that the ultimate work is an expression of an artist.
Well, different lane, but for us, one of the ways that we're using it is when we're creating a K-pop record or a pop record, and if I'm pitching a record to Selena Gomez, say, and it's the vocal the demo vocal is a male, but the song is perfect for Selena, and we want to pitch it to Selena, but we also want to pitch it to Ariana and also to Miley Cyrus. We'll use AI to run the vocal through, and it'll spit us out exactly the same vocal sung by Selena Gomez, sung by Ariana Grande, and sung by Demi Lovato, or whoever we were intending to pitch it to. We re-export the song with that new vocal. We don't have to sing it twice, and then pitch it. And for us, that's been game-changing when we're pitching music to artists, because they can actually hear the record in their style. What would I sound like singing this song? Wow, it sounds like a me kind of track. That's using AI to enhance the pitching process, but it's not really taking away from the creative songwriting and composition and producing. So again, a good example of just being able to use the tools available to enhance the job and to enhance efficiency.
I do wonder, when somebody creates an AI-generated album like you were talking about, and it gets released, what happens at a certain point when everybody knows it's just an AI-created thing? And will there be a backlash, or will the interest and the love diminish because of that?
It's a really good question. I'm not sure, because you look into Japan, you look into China, you look into Korea at the moment. They're actually doing a really good job at advancing forward AI bands, and avatar bands where there aren't actually humans behind them. It's avatars or virtual stars, and then they're using AI to make the music and the music videos. And you've got the League of Legends, Riot Games, fandomonia that really like the advanced tech side of things and gravitate to that. Whether or not it's a wider spread appeal, I don't think we have enough data to say whether or not it will or won't be accepted. My estimate is that it won't, at least fully, because people want soul and emotion and passion, and they want this. The music it speaks to the experiences that you've had in your life, and that's what you're expressing at the end of the day. But who knows?
I think also that these things have been popular in Asian cultures for a while.
Yeah.
In Japan, I study Japanese, and I love the culture. Been there many, many times, and it's my home away from home, and so I'm familiar with it. And Korea and Japan as well have been into this, and the avatars and the robots and the other things in a way that really hasn't caught on here.
Yeah. Well, then the bands like KDA that featured Madison Beer and artists like that, now they're doing the same types of things, but they no longer have a need to feature the artist. They're just using AI for the great vocals, because ultimately it's the avatar or the virtual star that was the drive in the first place. So I think when it comes to music derived from gaming and derived from characters in animated series, for example, I think it's perfect, because you don't necessarily need
Totally different
celebrity.
thing.
Different thing.
I mean, look at SpongeBob. We did most of the music for SpongeBob over the years, and Sweet Victory that SpongeBob sings at the Super Bowl.
And there's so much loyalty
ours.
for SpongeBob. But I don't think that the consumer that loves SpongeBob would care if an AI made the music or if a human made the music.
I agree.
So I think it has its use case.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Look, we can spin our crystal ball for as long as we want to, and no matter what, we know we're going to get it wrong. So
yeah. Thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Talking to you. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Spotify page, and stay tuned for the next episode of Executives in Discussion on the A&R Worldwide podcast presented by Nuplak with your host, Taylor Jones. See you next time.